I'm Jim Donio, and welcome to String Band Sessions podcast. In this episode, we continue the Concept to Creation series with Kelliann Gallagher and Ryan Echols from Hegeman String Band and Jeff Crompton from Avalon String Band. So, I'm here with Kelliann Gallagher and Ryan Echols. Kelliann is the captain of Hegeman String Band. Ryan is the president of Hegeman String Band. And just a little trivia, a little bit about Hegeman for those who might not know. So Hegeman's one of the oldest bands. It was actually founded in 1920 by a music store owner from Philadelphia, Ernest A. Hegeman. When Ernest passed away in 1935, Al Fink took over the band, and full disclosure, Al Fink is the person who welcomed me into Hegeman String Band when I was a teenager in 1972, which is a long time ago, but it's still a fond memory for me, of Hegeman. So Kelliann, yes. Kelliann is the first female captain ever of Hegeman, but yes. More so than that, Kelliann is the only female captain of a string band in 2025. Yes. And that's been for the past couple of years. So
yeah, for now, I'm hoping there's more coming, but
what's
yes.
that been like to break into that? I mean, we've had female captains
right. before,
but we've never had a female captain of an association string band.
Right. So I think the main there's as a co-ed band too, there isn't much difference when it comes to our band itself within itself. I'm so grateful for the band and the people around me and my teammates. They treat me like no different. Like I could be female, I was male, like whatever. I'm just in the third spot. To me, it doesn't seem any different. However, to the outside world, I understand it's different. And I really take on the responsibility of it and be proud of it, because what I see and what drives me is the little girls on the side of the road that are at parades, the little boys there, they come up and they're, or the women that have been on South Philly for years and they haven't seen a woman come down the street as leading a band. And I've gotten hugs and stuff from outside world. I get the appreciation. So that's nice to see and what drives me.
Yeah.
Too.
So how did it come about? Like, how did you come to Hegeman and how did you come to be captain?
Funny story. Ironically, this was totally random, but I actually met Al Fink's daughter right before I joined. She was in her 90s, and she was telling me, I was like, I'm going to join this band, Hegeman String Band. She goes, my dad was the captain. It was his
That is very random.
It was totally random. And and then I had a coworker who was in Hegeman, and I did my research. I'm like, if I'm going to be in a band, I want to be in a band where I can actually play an instrument, because I play the banjo, and not, be on the sidelines. So Hegeman's one of the co-ed bands. So I joined and met my friend Sharon in a dark parking lot at Toll Man Joe's, and the rest is history.
And here you are, So let's talk a little bit about, so the whole idea of this podcast series is concept to creation. One of the things that we want to do is kind of give people a little bit of the context, give people a little bit of the behind the scenes of, when they see this on New Year's Day, like how does this come about? So we're doing a Las Vegas theme. So tell us a little bit about how this particular idea was brought about and why it was chosen over others.
Right. So starting last year sometime, kind of had it in my head that this being the 250th anniversary of the United States, and being that Philadelphia is going to be like the centerpiece for the start of the kickoff of the 250th anniversary, wanted to do something that had an American theme, but wasn't too necessarily on the nose. I didn't want it to necessarily be like, George Washington and Ben Franklin out there running around in mummers costumes. So I kind of started last year, towards the end of the year, when we were kind of drumming up ideas. You're trying to think anything but New Year's at that point, because your brain's been so on New Year's up to that point that you're just like, all right, I need to get my brain off it. So I started thinking up ideas, and I kind of initially had come up with an idea of like a tribute to great American rock acts or just American music. And that's kind of where it initially came from, because you can't have American music without Elvis. So that was always in the background. And we were working back and forth, and then New Year's came and went. And finally, we were starting to work with our music director, our music writer, Franny Kerr, as to some ideas. And we have these things that we call war rooms, and they started last year, towards the end of the year, when we were starting to really like nail down the final ideas for how we want a scene to go or a direction to go with the music and the dancing. And they came about after our practices. We would run and we would get a beer at like one of the local like Mifflin Tavern, or for Pete's sake in the neighborhood after drill practice. And we would just sit down and have a beer and kind of just hash out some ideas, now that all the rigmarole of the practice and drilling is done. And so we brought Franny Kerr into some of these war rooms, and we started running ideas off of him. And I remember the exact date it was that we came up with this idea. And it was because it was a little subconscious tweak from me listening to the radio earlier that day. It was January 8th, which, if anyone knows, January 8th is Elvis's birthday. And they had happened to play an Elvis block on the radio that morning. And I subconsciously didn't even put two and two together. And we were January 8th at Bonesaw Brewing in Glassboro.
So this was just a week after
Yeah.
the parade
We're already
of
on
2025.
We were trying to get a good head start on it because.
Well, that's a good head start, a
Yep.
week. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm the kind of person that ideas are always just, I've always been a very creative person. And so it was January 8th, we're at Bonesaw, and I presented my initial idea of what if we did a tribute to great American music acts. And he said, it's good, but it's difficult because there's a lot of music to work with, but it can be difficult because they can kind of clash with each other sometimes. Some of it could be very complicated, and so you kind of have to know your band really well. And Franny Kerr's only worked with us for 1 year so far, so he didn't really know the true capabilities of our band, how good we are, how bad we are, what our strengths, what our weaknesses are. So he kind of was leaning towards as a possibility, but maybe there's some other ideas out there. And so I was just kind of like talking out loud, and I was like, well, it'd be still cool to do something that has something to do with America, like great Americana. And then out of nowhere, because Elvis subconsciously was on the radio, I said, what about something like Elvis in Las Vegas? And then I just started talking out loud. One of the things Kelly has always kind of pushed for as captain is she doesn't want to be typecast into any individual captain role. Like, she doesn't always want to be the female in the dress and the boots. Like, it's okay to be just a more androgynous, generic male, female, just no.
So are we suggesting that Kelly might be Elvis?
We might be a version of it. We're not going right
Oh, that's
for it, but it
interesting.
could be a version of it. But we're going to make it our version, like kind of what we did last year, Hegeman's version.
Hegeman's version.
Right.
Yeah. So we talk with the bands about inspirations. So now you've touched on a bunch of inspiration, hearing a song on the radio, Elvis's birthday. So things that make a trigger for someone to think about something. So I know last year with the Wicked theme, so obviously theater, film, are often inspirations for a lot of the bands to sort of like platform something using those ideas. So how is that going to fit in with this idea, do you think? Like, are you like purposefully like going to casino shows and looking at?
I mean, I'm up for all the research I can get.
Trying to plan a trip,
So,
that's for sure.
like, we are totally into, like, I mean, if I have to go to Atlantic City, if I have to go to casinos, I mean, fine.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that would be a tough sell. But this idea, the idea of Las Vegas, sort of from the standpoint of spectacle, showgirls, was actually done a few times. Most notably, will actually be like 50 years ago from this upcoming parade. In 1976, the former Trilby String Band's no longer, one of the bands, but Trilby String Band did a Las Vegas on Broad Street theme with famously or infamously drag performers when they did this all these years ago, 50 years ago. So I know that Hegeman, as you've said, is a co-ed band. So do you feel like going this route kind of plays to the strengths because you have a female contingent that might be able to fit in like visually to this idea?
Yeah, that was part of it too. Like we know we have to play to our strengths too, and yes, that was part of it. But also another strength that we have within our band is to have fun, and that was the main thing. We went with this because we could have fun with it all season, all year, do different types of parties throughout the year, different stuffs that would bring the band together. And that really, like the female part of it's one thing, but it's having everyone come together and just have a good time this year, building up to this theme, and have something that we can all work towards and look forward to.
So are we, in terms of seeing where we are in the development of it, so are we going in the direction of casino, or is it more like the show spectacle? Because you mentioned Elvis. Is that...
I would say when we really broke it down, we kind of almost took out a piece of paper and said, what comes to mind? Like, what are the top 3 things that come to mind when you think of Las Vegas? And then we kind of weighed all those out and figured, okay, starting from an end of a show and working your way back to the beginning of a show, how do you fit all these elements in that represent Las Vegas, but also represent something that is so like uniquely and truly American? And so you have the casino elements for sure. I mean, the most of the background and prop set is going to give the illusion of a casino type setting because it's Las Vegas, but with also having the famous historical landmarks of Las Vegas, the lights, the Luxor, and things like that. But also the other elements, like Las Vegas had a famous gangster culture back in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. So tie-ins with that as well.
Wouldn't it be great if we could have the fountains at Bellagio, but like all that
That'd be awesome.
all that water probably would not be a good mix
Jeff
for it,
just
or it
wouldn't
could
like
or it
that.
could
If it's
freeze
windy again.
or it could freeze
Blowing into
or it
the
could
band.
freeze midair. So do you guys watch other bands' previous, do you go back into the history and watch any of the previous performances to sort of compare and contrast?
There's a touchy
that something
part
you
with
do?
that. Yes. I mean, we've had times when other bands, we don't specifically sit down and watch every year, because another thing is you tend to have a tunnel vision for it, and then you see what other people are doing. And if you want to think outside the box, you want to have all the ideas that you can have without thinking of another band out there. And that's what we have an opportunity to. And what sets us apart is we haven't been lifelong mummers and know all these years. It's good and bad. And where our strength is, it's good in a way that we're thinking a lot broader and wider with some things that might not be as traditional with the string bands itself. So there is a place for it and a time, and we do look back at the other bands and appreciate and accept what has happened in string band history and mummer history, and we take that but not really dive into it too much and say, oh, they did this year, so we got to do this year and do it this version
That makes
this year.
sense. That makes sense. So to kind of close up, so where is the band headquartered right now? Because it's been in a bunch of different locations, but where is it now?
Currently, we're 1801 South 2nd Street, so right in the heart of 2nd Street.
Yeah.
We're the only true co-ed band on 2nd Street. Because little piece of trivia for people that don't know, 2nd Street right after Mifflin becomes 3rd Street. And I didn't even know that, and I lived in the neighborhood for about almost 10, 15 years. But yeah, so we're right on 2nd Street.
Or 2 Street.
Or 2 Street, yeah, as most mummers would say.
So that's where you are.
Yeah.
So to kind of wrap this up, so where are we development-wise, like costumes, musical score? Like, are we pretty far along? Do we have some kind of elements in place? Are you still kind of picking and choosing from the elements in the skits that you're going to do?
So I just want to say too, with the previous years that we've had since 2023, since I started as captain, every year we didn't know if we were going to go up and down the street at all. We didn't know if we were going to have a band. This is the first year we know we have a band going up the street. So that part, that is a huge part of our development. And it's just, we're in the throes of it all. If you want to say we're in the middle of it, it's not like super far along for other bands maybe, but for us, we're pretty far along as we've gotten music started. We got things that we haven't traditionally had started at this point going now because we didn't know. Yeah, we have.
And you guys do your own makeup,
right.
Your own props and sets. So that's all, internal. as well.
Yep.
So it's
Taking on more help though. If you-
it's rolling up the sleeves. It's rolling up the sleeves, and like we've said, it's a growing band. I know when
Oh,
we
yes.
when we talked at the Luau,
With Sasha,
when I met Sasha, one of your newest members who came from West Virginia, you mentioned in that interview as well that she's like a perfect example of someone discovering this and making a connection to a band that is looking for members, that is growing. And that's a great, outcome for everyone.
Yes.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Kelliann,
Thank you so much, Jim.
for joining us for the String Band Sessions podcast. And we'll look forward to this exciting trip to Las Vegas on January 1st, 2026.
Viva Las Vegas.
So this is Jeff Crompton, who is the theme chairman and the drill master for Avalon String Band. Thank you so much, Jeff, for coming and visiting with us for String Band Sessions podcast. So how long have you been with Avalon?
I've been with Avalon for the past 7 years. I started with Avalon back in 1994 and was with them through 2009, and then left and joined the Frowns String Band and was there for 9 years, and then came back to Avalon for the 2019 parade.
Okay. And you've got other family in the band, as I know. So tell us a little bit about your family involvement in Avalon.
Sure. So this coming year, we will have my dad and my two brothers, myself, all parading together for the first time in a long time. And then my son and nephew both participated last year in costume, and they were dancers for us. And we'll see, they may be involved again this year.
So does everybody play? Everyone plays an instrument. So go through. So what did you play?
Sure. I've played alto sax in both Avalon and Frowns String Band. My brother Jim primarily plays tenor sax, but started out playing Barry. And Jerry primarily plays alto sax. He's the youngest brother, but can play everything. He's played soprano on New Year's Day. And then same for my dad. My dad has played, I think, all the saxes on New Year's Day, except maybe the bass sax. Yeah, so.
And the younger guys, do they play as well?
So my son just started sax last year, and my nephew Tim, which is Jim's son, has been playing sax for 2 years, and I think he's getting close to being ready to take his music tests and be an official member.
So it's like a Crompton dynasty of sorts in Avalon String Band. So for those who might not know, Avalon String Band actually is not from Avalon, New Jersey. It's not named for a South Jersey town. The band has been around for a long time, was actually reorganized in 1982, so about 40 plus years ago. So where is the band headquartered now, and how long has it been in the current headquarters?
Sure, yeah, so we're headquartered now at 2nd and Tasker Street in South Philadelphia. We've been in that property for well over 30 years at this point. And, for as long as I remember, I started going around the band probably when I was 8 or 9 years old, and we've been in that clubhouse.
For all that time.
Yeah,
for all that time. So let's talk about the reason we're here, the concept to creation ideas for 2026. So Avalon is going to take us into a bakery. I'm Italian, so it's one of my favorite places to be, walking into a bakery. So how is this idea chosen, and what is the band's sort of energy around choosing it for this particular year?
Sure. So each year after the parade, we like to go back and look at the judges' comments, the scores, kind of see how we did, where we need to improve, some focus areas. So we always think that's a good starting point, even before we get into the process of picking the theme for the next year. And then after that, we'll go and look at files that themes that we've had on file in previous years that have kind of made it to the final stages, but never was chosen ultimately to be our theme. And then from there, we'll kind of open it up to any new submissions and go through that. For this year, in particular, it was interesting in that we had quite a few themes that we were going through as a committee. One of them was kind of revolved around a restaurant, broadly, a broad kind of restaurant theme, and had a lot of great stuff. We spent a good bit of time talking about it. And then I was having a conversation with my friend Jack Mills from the Frowns String Band. And we kind of were kicking things back and forth as we do. And this idea of bakery came up. And so, I kicked it around, took it back to the committee. This seemed to have like some legs to it immediately. There was a lot of good energy in the room once the discussion kind of got going, and so that's kind of where we ended up. So it was never really a formal submission in this instance, which it usually is, but this time around it kind of evolved from something else, and then some outside influence, which we always welcome.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. So there have been, as almost with every theme, there's not really many themes that you could come up with where no element of it has ever been done before. So in this instance, so we had Duffy Takes the Cake. We had Polish American who did Well Done, which was kind of a food-oriented theme. And I think Hegman also did Be Our Guest, which had elements of sort of chefs and bakery and so forth. So do you look back? Do you watch in this case, do you watch what they did? Does that have any kind of influence, or do you kind of just wipe the slate clean?
Yeah, so yes to all that. And I think for this one in particular, or really any theme, as a committee, when we start to kind of really dive into these and get into kind of building out an outline and what we want to feature and that sort of thing, previous themes from string bands and fancy brigades they just come up. And so, as they come up in conversation, we'll either take time to watch a little bit of it, or if somebody has something specific they want to point out, we'll take a look at it. And then myself, I do try to go back and just refresh my memory on some of those old themes, and maybe there's something that can spark a new idea or something that we can kind of reuse and bring up to date. So yeah, we definitely will go back and look at things that have been done before that are related to the theme. But we also kind of, I try to encourage the committee and its members to look outside of Mummers, because I think it's important that we continue to innovate and challenge ourselves, and not just try to redo what we've all seen before.
And get inspiration from a lot of places.
Sure.
For example, in this case, are you visiting bakeries? Are you going to go and sort of kind of take in the ambiance and the workings of a bakery, maybe utilize that to, create some of the skits or features?
Yeah, so we haven't taken any official class trips as a theme committee yet, and that's not off the table. But we are certainly all paying attention to the different things that kind of jump out at you when you do walk into different bakeries, right? And every bakery is kind of laid out different, depending on if it's a mom and pop shop or something that's more franchise and that sort of thing. But they all have quite a few similar characteristics as well. But I think what we're trying to do with the theme is kind of take you through walking in a bakery door and pulling out all the different things that really we find that are relatable and familiar to the audience.
Yeah. So if you need someone to tag along, if you decide to go to visit a lot of bakeries,
I'll make sure you're on the list.
I'm there. So, so in terms of executing this, so are we looking at like bread, pies, donuts, cupcakes, cookies, and are we looking at incorporating like humor? What will the captain's role be? So what can you tell us about how it's sort of the direction that you're taking?
Sure. So we're going to try to include all of those things that you mentioned, any of the sweet treats that we're all very familiar with, as well as, at the same time, I should say, we need to kind of narrow that list down, because there is a very wide variety of items in a bakery, and depending on what kind of bakery it is, you're going to see different specialty items and that sort of thing. So we kind of have a broad brush bakery in the works, and our captain will be the baker. And I think it's going to be a very fun, whimsical, is kind of the word that we're using, high energy, colorful, fun theme.
So where do we stand in terms of timeline at this point? Costume, score, production, kind of on that timeline, how far along are things right now?
Sure. So I would say we're kind of right where we usually are this time of year. We have all of our costume sketches. Russ Fama has done the costume sketches for us this year and did a great job for us. We've handed those off to Sam. Met with him in the last week or two to review those sketches, and then next steps there will be to kind of come back, sit down with Sam, go through materials and that sort of thing. From the music perspective, we have close to 3/4 of the musical score. Not all of it's pieced together yet, but we have certain sections that we know is going to go with certain scenes or storyboards, and then we have other parts, good chunks of it that are kind of put together in a score.
And who arranges the score?
Yeah, so our music director, Joe Rosello Jr., who's been in Avalon his entire life. I think he's probably come up on 30 years, and he's been the music director for the band for probably the last decade or so.
And then from the standpoint of the sets and the props and those kinds of things, so who do you use for that, and where does that how is that unfolding?
Sure. So in previous years, we've worked with Dave Wigler and a few other prop designers to kind of draw our sets. This year, we're kind of keeping it more in-house, using technology to get, to the best of our ability anyway, using AI to kind of create some of the rough ideas that we have, and then using our artists and our painter, Mark Hanegeiser, to help us kind of refine that vision and get everything kind of in the right palettes and right perspective.
And then execute.
Yeah.
So, so artificial intelligence, has, I think, been incorporated for the past couple of years, not
Sure.
just in the string bands, in the fancy brigades, as well, kind of figuring out ways to utilize technologies that are there for creative purposes, and figuring out how to use them. So it's interesting that you're touching on that for sure. And so you mentioned like whimsy. So it seems to me like this would be something that will make people smile.
Sure. We hope
Maybe laugh a little bit in terms of some of the skits. So do you think will you incorporate humor into it as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think we have a few concepts right now that are on the humor side, and looking like they're probably going to make the final cut. But just very lighthearted, fun. There's nothing too serious about a bakery anyway, unless you're in the kitchen and gotta.
Yeah, or you're like,
gotta
I'm
deliver.
serious.
Yeah.
I am definitely serious about bakeries. So do we have a working title at this point?
We've jokingly been calling it Half Baked at the moment. I don't know if that's going to be our final title, but that's the working title we're using.
For sure. So thank you to Jeff Crompton for coming and visiting with us for the String Band Sessions podcast. Thank you, Jeff.
Got it. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks for watching the String Band Sessions podcast. Let us know what you think in the comments.